right, boys and girls, we're back again for our last few chapters of Mercy Watson, Princess in Disguise. It's been written by Kate DiCamillo, and the illustrator has been Chris Van Dusen. Chris has done a great job of capturing Mercy Watson in her dress and showing us how pretty she looks as a princess. And then we have Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson on the front cover. Let's take a look at where we left off yesterday. We had read where Mercy was chasing the cat, General Washington, because General Washington had slapped her on the rear end. And then everybody started chasing General Washington and Mercy. And Mercy stops real quick and everybody bumps into her. Eugenia, Baby, Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson, Stella, and Frank. We met Frank and Stella yesterday. Those two guys live next door to Mercy on the other side. So now we are here at this page, chapter 13. And I see Eugenia. She's got her fist up in the air. She's shaking her fist at the cat. See how Chris Van Dusen put those little lines in there to show us that her hand is moving? And then we have Stella down here. She's taking her snout off. And there's Mercy. And there's her brother Frank pretending to be a doctor. And then Mr. Watson and Mrs. Watson. So let's read to find out what happens. "Well," said Stella, "I guess the parade is over." "Nothing is over," Eugenia Lincoln shouted. She stared up into the branches of the tree. "General Washington," said Eugenia, "come down here immediately." These two pages don't have any pictures, so I'm just going to read it to you. "Meow," said General Washington. "General Washington," said Eugenia, "I will not take no for an answer." "Meow," said General Washington. "Cats don't usually do what you ask them to do," said Stella. "Nonsense," said Eugenia. "General Washington always obeys orders." "I think the cat is stuck," said Frank. "Nonsense," said Eugenia. "General Washington is far too intelligent to get stuck." Eugenia called General Washington again and again, but General Washington would not move. "I think," said Mr. Watson, "it might be a good time to call the fire department." You remember the fire department, boys and girls? In our first book, they had to call the fire department because the bed fell through the floor. And in our last book, Baby Lincoln and Eugenia called the fire department and tried to get them to come and catch the thief, Leroy Ninker. So here we have the fire department again. Here's Ned. He's getting ready to answer the telephone. And there's his partner, Lorenzo. And we're on chapter 14. At the fire station, the phone rang. Ned took the call. "How's that?" said Ned. "General Washington," said Ned. "Stuck up in a tree?" said Ned. "Right," said Ned. "We're on our way." "That was a strange call," Ned said to Lorenzo. "Apparently, a general is stuck in a tree." Said Lorenzo. "What is the address?" "I think he's worried." "Somewhere on Decawoo Drive," said Ned. "Decawoo Drive," said Lorenzo. "That's where that pig lives." "Oh boy," said Ned. "We'd better hurry." Look how Ned has these little things around his head. Chris Van Dusen is showing us that Ned is moving fast. And he's got his leg up in the air so we can tell he's running. They're moving fast. They got to get there. It's an emergency. Chapter 15. When Ned and Lorenzo got to Decawoo Drive, they saw a large oak tree. And underneath that oak tree was a pig in a pink dress with a tiara on her head. "It's just as I suspected," said Lorenzo. There is that pig. Yes, said Ned. But where is General Washington? Thank goodness you are here, said baby Lincoln. What took you so long? Said Eugenia Lincoln. Is that General Washington? Said Ned. He pointed way up high in the tree to a gray cat. Of course it is, said Eugenia. Meow, said General Washington. Boys and girls, look at how Kate DiCamillo, she wrote all these letters in here, a whole bunch of O's, a whole bunch of W's, and a whole bunch of L's. That tells us that the cat said it for a really long time. Meow. Lorenzo got a ladder from the truck. He leaned the ladder against the tree. He climbed up the ladder. He reached out and grabbed a hold of General Washington. I like how Chris did this picture. He made all these people look tiny. And he made Lorenzo look big and General Washington look big. That shows us that these guys are way far down on the ground and this guy is way up high in the tree. He climbed down the ladder. He put General Washington into Eugenia's arms. Look how happy she looks. We have never seen Eugenia look happy. Hooray, everyone cheered. You can always count on the fire department, said Mr. Watson. That is what I say. Oh, said Mrs. Watson, we should celebrate. We should have a party. Mercy pricked up her ears. Parties, in Mercy's experience, almost always involve toast. Look, you can tell she's got an idea because she's got those yellow things around her head. Last chapter, chapter 16. Everyone was in the Watsons' kitchen. Everyone was gathered around the Watsons' table. Have you ever had toast here before? Lorenzo asked Stella. Nope, said Stella. Oh, you're in for a treat, said Ned. The toast here is excellent. Eating food at a stranger's house is potentially dangerous, said Frank. Remember, he wants to be a doctor. But we're not strangers, said Mrs. Watson. We are your neighbors. Meow, said General Washington. Bah, said Eugenia Lincoln. Who needs neighbors? Oh, sister, said baby. Here, have a butter barrel. Remember when Leroy Ninker had butter barrel candy? Look, there it is. Baby is giving her sister some candy. General Washington's being a good kitty. Baby Mercy is down here waiting for some toast. There's Ned, Stella, Frank, Lorenzo, Mr. Watson, and look at Miss Watson. Mrs. Watson has a great deal of toast, and I bet it has a great deal of butter on it too. Don't you like how she decorated for Halloween? So cute. My darling, my dear, my porcine princess, said Mr. Watson. Aren't you glad you put on the pink dress? Mercy put her snout up in the air. She sniffed. Bread was toasting, butter was melting. The pink dress was terribly snug, but it was worth it. Oink, said Mercy. Happy Halloween, my darling, said Mr. Watson. Happy Halloween, everyone. And that is the end of our story, Mercy Watson, Princess in Disguise. And I hope, Kaylin, you enjoyed that part of the book because you had told me today you have really liked this book. And I wanted to make sure that everybody knew you've been watching our videos. Now, let me ask you some questions. What did Mercy dress up as? A princess, that's right. And how did she get in her dress? Because she didn't want to at first. That's right. Mr. and Mrs. Watson told her that if she put her dress on, she'd get some treats. Who else was dressed like a pig? Stella. Right, her new friend Stella was dressed as a pig, and her brother Frank was a doctor. What was Mrs. Watson dressed up as? Yeah, a cowgirl. How about Mr. Watson? Do you remember him? What was he? A scarecrow, that's right. What happened when Mercy went over to baby Lincoln's house to get some candy? Yeah, Eugenia kicked her out. She said that pigs should not be dressed up in a costume. We met a new character in this book besides Frank and Stella. Do you remember? Yep, General Washington, Eugenia's new cat. Does Mercy ever get any treats? She sure does. Baby tells her to come around to the back of the house, and she gets a whole bowl full of treats because she smelled those butter barrel candies that she likes. Why did Mercy start chasing the cat, General Washington? Yes, General Washington swapped her on the tail with his paw. Where does General Washington go to get away from Mercy? Up in a tree, you're right. He runs way up into the tree. Let's see. Oh, that's Frank and Stella. Here he is. He's up in the tree. How do they get down out of the tree? Yes, they called the fire department, and Lorenzo and Ned came running and brought a ladder and got her down out of the tree. After they got the cat down out of the tree, then what did they do? Yeah, everybody went to Mercy's house for some toast and a great deal of butter. Isn't it funny how all of our stories have ended with them sitting at the table and they're all eating toast and butter? That's a nice treat. Now, on Monday, when you guys come back on Monday, we're going to start our next book. It's book number 5. Here it is, right here. Mercy Watson Thinks Like a Pig. So we're going to have to find out what it's like when you think like a pig. If I was a pig, I would be thinking about food a lot. And if I wasn't thinking about food, I would think about taking a nap. And if I wasn't thinking about food or taking a nap, I might think about rolling around in mud. Those are all fun things to do if you're a pig. So come back on Monday and we'll see how Mercy Watson thinks like a pig. I love you guys. I hope you have a good night.